Good afternoon, everyone. Bienvenue, mesdames et messieurs. Merci, Tara, pour cette présentation. Nous allons donc aborder aujourd'hui la 4e session, ou la 3e plutôt, session depuis le début de cette série de webinaires sur la pollution plastique dans la région de la Convention d'Abidjan. Comme vous le savez, ces webinaires entrent dans le cadre du projet ACP MEAs, financé par l'Union européenne et qui va soutenir donc la Convention d'Abidjan et tous les pays ACP, Afrique, Caraïbes, Pacifique, pour le développement d'un cadre régional pour lutter contre la pollution plastique. Et donc, nos amis de l'African Marine Waste Network nous accompagnent dans ce processus-là et nous saluons aussi tous nos partenaires. Nous les remercions pour toute l'assistance qu'ils nous apportent et tout le soutien qu'ils ne cessent de nous apporter. Nous avons vu jusqu'ici les difficultés qu'il y avait, notamment lors de du dernier panel que nous avons organisé, le premier en genre d'ailleurs, en la matière. Nous avons vu les difficultés auxquelles les pays du continent étaient confrontés pour la gestion des déchets plastiques de façon spécifique, mais de façon globale. Les difficultés concernent les déchets les déchets tout simplement, la gestion municipale. Et aujourd'hui, nous allons voir un autre aspect de ces déchets-là, ou on va dire du problème de façon globale. Au fil du temps, d'ailleurs, avec les discussions qu'il y a, on commence à voir un peu que la notion même de déchet va peut-être être redéfinie ou en tout cas revisitée, parce que c'est déchets, mais c'est en même temps aussi matière première pour autre chose quand on se met dans la perspective de l'économie circulaire. Et aujourd'hui, nous allons donc entendre des acteurs majeurs, notamment de l'industrie, qui vont nous présenter un peu la perspective selon l'industrie. Donc, il y aura Daniel Tornyigah et Douw Steyn qui seront introduits par Tony Ribink. Tony, over to you.
Thank you, Abdullah. Right.
Merci.
We are having a tremendously valuable series, and we are deeply honored to be part of this. And today I've got the privilege of introducing to you Mr. Douw Steyn. Now, he has been his role has been in fact indicated in the flyer that you've been sent, but I think I'll give you something more personal about him, other than to mention that although he comes from the plastics industry, and the plastics industry are often criticized, this is not the case in much of Africa. He's the Director of Sustainability at Plastics SA, and he's devoted, as is in fact Plastics SA, to helping solve the problem. And as Douw will explain to you, they've got many associations representing the industry as a whole in South Africa and great insights. And part of today is in fact going to be showing the type of insight that the plastics industry and Plastics SA in particular have got into this. And we're starting an exciting part because he's going to be talking about the role of industry and things that were actually discussed before in some of the other talks as to what the plastics industry should be doing to contribute to the development of action plans and best practice. But what I'd like to say to you is that what really impresses me most about Douw, other than his sense of humor, is that he is totally dedicated to finding solutions that are practical to solve the issues of plastics in Africa. He's perforce, because of Plastics SA being South African focused, his principal focus has to be South Africa, but he is very experienced in other parts of Africa and has visited West Africa and particularly Ghana, thanks to the input of and the assistance of Daniel. So you're going to find him delightful to listen to, very practical, very knowledgeable, and a problem solver. So Douw, over to you, and thank you very much indeed for giving your valuable time to us. We hope that it goes as well as you'd like.
Well, Tony, thank you for those kind words, and also on behalf of the plastic industry South Africa, thank you for this opportunity to present the South African industry's plastic actions and how we address waste management, and especially on the marine side. Yes, I think what is really important, we can write books about waste and waste management and recycling and how to address it. But what are we going to do on the ground? And I think that is where myself and Daniel from Ghana and the Global Plastic Alliance are really trying our best to say, what can we really do now? Because we've got a big problem with plastics and the environment. So I'm going to share with you some of the actions we do. And if I do speak too fast, please just say, hold on, hold your horses. Right. Who is Plastic SA?
Actually,
Plastic, it's...
yes. Sorry, Douw, may I just... Because it's being interpreted, we might need you to rein those horses in.
Alors, à cause de l'interprétation, nous voudrions vous soumettre une requête qui est de revoir votre débit.
Plastic SA is the rep for the plastic industry. So there's no government funding, interference, etc. So Plastic SA represents the raw material producers, or what we call virgin material. It also represents the converters or the manufacturers of products. There's about 1,500 companies in SA. And then also the plastic recycling industry, about 288 recycling companies that are processing waste into a valuable resource again. We employ about 60,000 people in the SA plastic industry. So what is the Plastic SA's core focus areas? Well, it's getting all our members to represent themselves in the different associations. Training is one of our main functions, training the industry, advocacy, especially to government and environmental organizations, research, communication, marketing, and I'm going to focus then on sustainability. If we look at the South African plastic industry production, how much plastic do we produce in SA? It's about 1.8 million tons of polymer, which is produced by Sasol and Safripol, and then of course plastic that are imported, more your engineering polymers. Of that 1.8, about 337,000 tons is recycled, plastics that are from waste plastic going back into a raw material. About 49% of all the polymer, this 1.8 tons of polymers, goes into packaging. As you can see, what is our plastic consumption per person? About 27 kilograms per annum. If we come back to sustainability, Plastic SA Sustainability Department is focusing on various focus areas. For example, and I'll just mention a few here, which is of interest to you guys here, is waste management and recycling, education and training, especially on waste management, resource efficiency, that's energy, water, air for the industry, research, and then project support and collaboration with other partners. So what is the challenges? And I've seen that throughout Africa, but I've also seen it in many other countries that we have the opportunity to visit, is that we do not have proper waste management in most of our communities. And so there's a lot of dumping, a lot of littering in our rivers, our roadsides, and of course, our beaches. If we look at, and I'm not going to go into detail, but if you look at the waste generation in SA in 2018, we've got about 826 landfills, and most of them are in a quite bad state. If you look at the waste generated, we can see, according to the number of people and the tonnages that are waste, it's quite high. Unfortunately, our recycling rate for packaging, plastic, glass, metals, paper, is smaller than 40%. So where does the rest go to? And that is our challenge. What can we do? Where's it ending up? If we look at our waste collection services, we do have in the metropolitan areas municipality service providers. About 88% do have waste management in the metro areas. 59% of our households do have waste collected, and about 34%, and especially in the rural areas, is communal dump sites, or even in the informal settlement areas. What we do not have in this country, except in Cape Town and one or two other places, is separation at source. That means there's waste management, but not really separating the recyclables from the waste. I'm going to be in another session is probably going to talk more about plastic recycling, but where do we get our plastic material from for recycling? We have various waste pickers, or what we call the trolley brigade. Approximately about 50% to 60% of our recyclables for recycling, plastic recycling, comes from waste pickers, either on the landfill or the trolley brigade. Of course, through cooperatives, mobile recycling units called packaging, there's various buyback centers, and then in Cape Town, there is a material recovery facility where households do have separation at source. So it's well organized. There's over 70,000 waste pickers currently collecting waste for the plastic industry. So we do really rely heavily on these guys doing a great job at the moment. Some of the challenges, or if you look at the recycling process, plastic has to be sorted. The transportation of the material is quite a challenge, especially if the material is coming from the rural areas. Then, of course, it still need to be processed through pelletizing, granulating, washing, etc. And then what is most important is to find the end markets. If you do not have an end market for recycled material, then recycling don't work. What are you going to do with those materials?
Une fois que le matériel est recyclé, qu'est-ce que vous allez en faire? Voici un des défis. Alors, Plastic SI assure donc une sorte de rôle une fonction de conciergerie de ces produits. Et donc, vous avez ici une étude qui a été entreprise en 2019 qui montre la production totale des plastiques qui est de 1 841 700 tonnes.
At least another 10% is waste. So if you look at what are we really recycling in terms of packaging, it's approximately about 31% of all packaging and about 20% of all plastics materials. If you look at Europe, we actually compare very well with Europe. But as I said, what is important is to have an end market that stimulates the market. And yeah, if we look at plastic waste management action plans, there's a lot of talk, especially at UNIA and various other organizations, to look at banning of certain plastics, looking at voluntary commitments, looking at taxes, lobbying against plastic. There's a lot of misconceptions around plastics. And so we as an industry have to collaborate with government and various other organizations to make sure that it's not an emotional drive, but really a drive to find the best solutions for actually a product that is valuable, it's got value, it doesn't need to go to the environment. What is the plastic industry? Some of our challenges and opportunities. There are various initiatives by the industry, a lot of engagements and a lot of collaboration. Now Daniel probably going to touch on it as well from Ghana, but we are part of the World Plastic Council. We are part of the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, part of the Global Plastic Alliance. The Global Plastic Alliance currently is 77 plastic associations worldwide. And at this current moment, Plastic SA and the Ghana Plastics Industry Federation are the only ones that so far have signed a declaration. So we need to get our African countries, especially the coastal countries, to get the plastic industries to embrace the marine litter solutions declaration. And then, of course, we in SA, and I'm going to talk more about it soon, is the SA Initiative to End Plastic Waste. So what do these guys all focus on? Well, plastic waste management, finding the best solutions, advocacy and outreach to municipalities and governments, finding the best marine litter solutions, looking at the best possible research. And that is where the African Marine Waste Network and SST is quite crucial for us, giving us that support and collaboration. Then, of course, communication, getting the message out there, make sure that the information is correct that we talk when we talk about plastics, educating the consumer, and then, of course, various cleanup campaigns. I personally believe that we should not be doing cleanups. We should, as human beings, live in a clean world, but that unfortunately is not the case. Excuse me. Then also, as industry, there's various government engagements and collaboration, and with other organizations like SST, African Network, IUCN, the Wildlife Society, the Marine Fraternity. And then on the right-hand side, you will see our Minister, Baba Creasy. We not long ago, we had the second plastic colloquium where we work with government and talk to each other to find what is the best solutions, what do they need, and what they need from us. We need to work together. Okay, something that's quite new for all of us, although we have been doing extended producer responsibility from the plastic industry for, or the packaging industry for many years, but we took about 3 years to write an industry waste management plan. And that the minister has taken off the table, and she said she would prefer extended producer responsibility. Those regulations and notices went out, and it need to be implemented by the 5th of November this year. What you'll see at the bottom there, all those various logos. For each polymer group, we've got what we call PROs, or producer responsibility organizations, and they've been going on for a long time. And their role is to support and encourage and implement recycling, to make sure that more, if it's PETCO, which is plastics #1, so more PET should be going for recycling. And through their programs and initiatives, they encourage the recycling. And you can have a look at their websites as well. And there's Polyco that looks after plastics 2, 4, and 5, your polyolefins. And then SAVA is the PVC, the Vinyls Association. And then, of course, the Polystyrene Recycling Association. Now, they are working very extensively now on the EPR schemes. Also, Plastic SA is a member of the Plastic Pact. That's quite new, but it's really to bring together the stakeholders to implement solutions towards a circular economy. Okay, we have a bit of a challenge with some of the activities because we cannot eliminate plastics. We're in the plastic industry, but of course we need to be very blunt. If a plastic is not a good plastics, what are we going to do about it? But also to look at, should be 100% recyclable. So there's a lot of work being done on design for recycling. And of course, the use of recycled material in plastics packaging. The last organization I want to talk about is quite also a newly formed organization called the SA Initiative to End Plastic Waste. And that is really a collaborative forum and working groups to look at the full value chain. That is from the raw material producer to the converter, to the recycler, right to the brand owner, the retailer. Everybody have a role to play in this plastics value chain. And we need to collaborate and find the best solutions. The working groups that has been put in place was especially on waste management and infrastructure, new technologies and innovation, bioplastics and composting, education awareness, and then the Minister of Environment convinced us to put 2 more working groups together, one on waste pickers or collectors, and then one on standards, especially standards, for instance, for refuse bags and certain recycled products. Now this SA initiative is much in line with the global initiative, the Alliance, and the big challenge here now is to identify these working groups and who sits on the working group so that we can, when we talk about infrastructure, we need to bring all the partners to the table and find the best solutions. Some of the actions, just as a slide, what are we doing with our partners like SST and various others is taking action on the ground. And we've identified river catchments on the South African coastline as very important because a lot of our beaches, especially where the rivers flow into, are very, very dirty. And so we've identified various river catchments, and the activities that we then take action there is to look in that river catchment, to look at the waste management, what is happening in that area, looking at education awareness. Are there schools projects on recycling and waste management, community activities, things like litter booms over rivers. And then, of course, the last action is cleanup campaigns of our roadsides, our rivers, our beaches. We do have a big challenge in this country because of no waste management in some of these areas, a lot of informal settlements next to the rivers. And what do they do with the materials? Because they've got nowhere else to take it. It gets thrown in the river. The first rainstorm takes it all the way to the coast. Then my last slide. My recommendation, and that is the road that we're taking, is to look at a South African plastic strategy on how to address plastic in the environment. And And I think we need an African strategy and, of course, a West African plastic strategy. And I think the advantage that probably West Africa have is to have Daniel there in Ghana doing great work, working with various countries on the West African coastline. So what do we need? We need the plastic industry and the full value chain to make commitment in plastic in our environment. We need to encourage proper waste management and recycling infrastructure. We need to look at innovation, new technologies. Is it pyrolysis? Is it things like making bricks out of recycled plastics? We need to find the best ways of taking that unwanted waste and give it value. And then, of course, investment. You know, any infrastructure you need funding. Technology is there. The biggest challenge I think most countries do have is investment to support collection and infrastructure. And then, of course, I believe we need to change the human behavior not to litter. We need to take everybody in the circular economy or the value chain responsible. So EPR of the producers and the brand owners in your particular countries need to take action and show commitment. And then, of course, I don't believe banning a product is the answer, but we have to make the correct choices. If a single-use product is a bad product for the environment and it ends up in the environment, one have to reconsider, is that the best product? Are there alternatives? We have to look at, when we do make choices, do a full life cycle analysis. It must not be emotional choices, in my opinion. So my last remark is we need a West African plastic waste management strategy. And I don't know what the abbreviation for that would be, but I think we need, as West African countries, as Africa, tackle this problem and find the best solutions in a collaborative way. Thank you much for listening, and thank you for the opportunity again. Any difficult questions, of course, you will give that to Tony. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Douw. Before you leave, firstly, for people who would like to ask questions, please use the question and answer box, and we'll come to that in a moment. Douw, very great overview, and thank you very much indeed. But before you leave, you indicated that among the producers, one of the things that they should be doing is designing plastics so that they could actually be recycled. I'd like you to just elaborate slightly on that for the audience, but then also indicate, in terms of developing the action plan that would ultimately be part of the West African waste management strategy that you're proposing, what is it, the special role that converters can play? So to put that sort of into a perspective.
Okay, I will try, and I'm sure Daniel will elaborate on that as well. I think design for recycling is very important, because the problem with plastic is you cannot take a plastics and mix it and there's another plastic coming out. One need to try to make the product in such a way that it's like one material or maximum two materials. Like you cannot have a PET bottle with a PVC sleeve, for instance, because when it gets granulated, both sink to the bottom in your wash plant. How do you take them apart? You can't take plastics apart. So we need to find the best material for the product. And then, of course, things like ink, things like the sleeves, things like where we have two different products. The bottle top is different than the bottom. So we need to add value to a product. We need to make sure that it is easily recyclable. And I think a lot of brand owners have put products on the market because they want to sell it. They want people to look at a beautiful product, but it has taken away the recycling opportunity. So do we want a grand, beautiful product, or do we want a product on the shelf that people will take when it's discarded and put it back into a resource? Under Packaging SA, we have developed a design for recycling guideline. And that guideline has been taken over by the Department of Environmental Affairs with our support. But the Plastic Pact is doing a lot of work now on on-pack recycling labels, on to tell people what part of this product is recyclable. But that also creates a challenge for the consumer. The consumer don't have time to look at various products on a product. So we need to find products that are easily accessible, recyclable, and probably made out of not 5 different materials. But the challenge you will find is sometimes, especially in the food packaging industry, is that some of the multi-layers have to be in 4 different plastics. Otherwise, that product will not last longer than a day or 2 on the shelves. So there's a lot of challenges. It's an awesome product, but we need to make sure that we find the best solutions for it. So there's a lot of talk at the moment in SA around design for recycling. So when a retailer brand owner wants to put a product on the market, he's got the obligation now to look at what is the best material, and if I use a specific material like plastic, what is my options to make it, ensure that it will be collected for recycling. Then of course, what is the role of the converter? I think converters for many years in this world said, well, I make a product, I sell it, and that's my responsibility. I think that have changed. The converter, it has to start also in his own factory, like Operation Clean Sweep, by not spilling plastic in his factory and to wash it or sweep it into a drain system so it ends up in the ocean, on the rivers. So it starts with good housekeeping, but also the converter have to convince the brand owner when they negotiate about a product to make sure that the product is recyclable. They have to support the brand owner to make the best choices. But then also financially, the converter have to also be responsible and take with the brand owner, with the full value chain, also responsibility for the products they put out in the market and when they develop these products. Does that answer your question, Tony, or do you need more?
No, thank you very much. I think that people can actually put questions into the question box, question and answer box for later. But Douw, so thank you once again for an excellent introduction into the spectrum that is happening in South Africa, particularly with the role of producers and converters. So Daniel Tornyigah, very welcome. He's going to now give us a West African perspective based on Ghana. Douw Steyn has visited Daniel at the Talk Plus workshops and conferences, and I've also had the privilege of doing that. So Daniel, would you like to now take the podium and give us a West African perspective based principally from Ghana, but clearly comparing it with other countries within West Africa?
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Tony Rubink. I hope I can be heard. Obviously, I am not on video. I don't know whether I should put it on video, but okay.
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to do what my boss. I call Douw Steyn. He's a professor when it comes to plastics in Africa, because I am doing some of the things I'm doing today because he has been my teacher. So if your teacher has spoken, I don't have much to say. Just to say that from my perspective, I would just have to give a little information or a little outline from the Ghana and the West African perspective, which I see this as a great opportunity, not to take it kindly. I am very grateful for the Sustainable Sea Trust and the Abidjan Convention for this great webinar that was started a week ago, and I am very grateful to be part of it, to share my thoughts. Indeed, the topic, which is action for producers and converters and recyclers at the heart of the plastic industry in Ghana and West Africa at large. And I want to pick it from a perspective of the plastic revolution that began in the early 80s or beyond, where a converting company started producing for the construction industry generally. That was the Interplast was doing for construction industry. Indeed, it became widespread when people realized that, well, with our climatic condition, there could be a product design that can help assuage the high heating conditions that we find ourselves whenever we are we are doing our normal works. So obviously, it came to pass that, of course, the general plastic desire went higher and higher and higher into a level where it was generally adopted. It became an adopted principle in Ghana and indeed in the entire West African sub-region. And I can say for a fact that the introduction of plastic as a material for packaging was really accepted. And it became like a duopoly between Mohinani. Hitherto it was called the Poly Product Ghana Limited, and then the Poly Ghana Limited. You see how the names were Polytex and then Poly Products. It was like a duopoly to a very large extent in the early 90s. Then of course, Poly Ghana Limited became Mohinani Group. I know it has spread its tentacles and it's in Nigeria and other countries. Of course, their works were very much accepted by the populace. In Ghana, for example, their works were duly accepted in all forms of human endeavor, for the industry, domestic use, and what have you. People started going into a different revolution, a different dispensation in terms of whatever they are producing. And for example, water pouches in the outside world, they call it water pouches. In Ghana, we call it water sachet. Water sachet became very, very, an acceptable product, because hitherto they were producing water or they were selling water from the metal cups. And this was having its own challenges when it comes to the public health, challenges. People were, that's where we had a wider contraction of cholera and the other, communicable diseases in Ghana. But of course, when it came to the plastics, when the product was redesigned to accept water pouches as one of the easily consumable products in the country, and indeed in the West African sub-region, it was hugely accepted. And that is where indeed the revolution began generally, because people were hitherto having their food placed in leaf wrappers, brown papers, and etc. And of course, it wasn't good enough. But the plastic became a good phenomenon, and several companies indeed joined the fray. They joined, the foreign businesses came into being, and then it went wider and wider and wider. Indeed, one thing I always want to point out is the fact that local personalities, local people who were working for the foreign industries got the knowledge of the job, and with their smaller and meager, investment, they went to set up their own plastic converting, facilities, and they were producing. So see how the exponential product acceptance was. It went so high, and then the local assembly production also was hugely accepted in the country, to the extent that they started exporting. They started exporting these plastic products that we have here in the country. They were exporting to the neighboring countries, such as Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, etc. They were going there. Not to talk of indeed the Nigerian production line. Nigeria had already started doing their production in the early 80s. They were widespread. Most of the things we do in Ghana, I don't need to demean our system, but of course, Nigerians started the revolution. When it comes to water pouches, it started in Nigeria. It came to Ghana, Ghanaians accepted, and then went to the other parts of the West African sub-region. And it has really impacted in the design of the product. It has really impacted in the changes of lifestyle. It has really impacted in the population. The general population intake had been very, very, very phenomenal when it comes to this product redesign and then where it is per the normal effect of whatever plastic product that has been designed. Indeed, that must be said, that the plastic per capita with each and every population increased. I from our office, and I got 0.14 to 0.026 to 0.95 per kilometer per person a day in Ghana. So you can imagine the level of rise from zero down to a huge kilograms of plastic intake per personality. But that is to say that when it was a good product, the design was good, the product itself was very durable, it was long lasting, and it was less expensive. So the consumption rate went high, and then we started doing our normal littering. Unfortunately, the littering rate also went high. So at a period, you can attest to the fact that the plastic consumption rate had gone up, and then the waste stream has also increased. Initially it was around 9%, the waste stream, but around the 2012 thereabout, the plastic constituency within the waste stream had increased from 12% to 16%. And as I speak with you, we are around 18%. So it brings into mind the generality of the acceptance of plastic as a product, and then the challenges of littering, which maybe by the time I end with my short presentation, we can also come to terms with. Indeed, it wasn't a good observation to uphold, but it became the part of the phenomenon that because it's cheap, I can throw it away. I can get another product anytime I go to a shop. So why don't I throw it away? So the connection between communication, advocacy, outreach in respect of how we can link up our desire for plastic product vis-a-vis the waste management system was the missing link at a point in time, which I will head to very, very shortly. Because like I said, the plastic industry itself generally had grown. It has seen a very wider exponential growth. Everybody was doing it. Everybody was doing its part to address the challenge of not having adequate product packaging to support our new lifestyle. I always say this, and people will normally laugh at me, that when plastic packaging revolution began in Ghana, our new lifestyle also commences. You know why? Because it got to a time, the people within the middle level income in our society were all resorting to the metal cups in their various homes and offices. But when the plastic revolution came in and we started creating the plastic pouches, the water pouches, sorry, and then the plastic bottles, everybody's lifestyle changes. It changed from that new revolution. Everybody accepted. People were walking around with their water bottles. Others were holding their water pouches in their containers and what have you. This was a good phenomenon, but a very bad when it comes to the littering challenges, which I made mention of entering into shortly. Now, the product rate within Ghana currently, within our own small investigation, when I get to the challenges, I will mention some of these, why I'm saying that within our own small investigations. Currently, it's about 4,500 metric tons daily. And you can attest, our population has increased and we are doing product and exporting it to the neighboring countries. And our desire for plastic has really upswayed to the extent that currently we produce 4,500 metric tons daily. And our collection rate, our waste collection rate is less than 30% in Ghana daily. So you see the wider shortfall where the waste is in the open environment, we are unable to collect them, and it's becoming a challenge to the private sector, the industry, and indeed the public sector, the government. But here we go. Government or the private sector and the academia, we've all come into an action plan, an action path. Let me put it in that way. Our sustainability action path had been very simple. Now, one, industry hitherto were very, very reactive. The plastic industry in Ghana was very reactive. I say this and I know my friends in Nigeria who are also listening to us will really attest that we had never been proactive because we were enjoying the trading pattern. We were enjoying the consumption. We're enjoying the desire for more productivity into the market, but we're not thinking about the waste stream that has been increased from the lesser than 12% to a higher magnitude of about 18 to 20% lately. So our reactiveness caused several backlash from the NGOs, from public institutions, and indeed government. I can recall in Ghana, there was a huge disaster in Ghana in 2015, and it was attributed to plastics. Why? Because they were saying that every gutter is choked with plastics. It's really incredible. But for me, I have been saying this time immemorial that you cannot say a disaster of a fire and water, kind of a demolition had come and you say you attribute it to plastics. I have been defending this ever since this issue, the report was released, and thank God I have been exonerated because we have a poor waste management system, and that has been the cause. It is not about plastic. We do not have a plastic waste problem. We do have a littering challenge, which can be addressed, which with a systematic effort from government and private sector, it can be addressed. So let me go on with my presentation. Now, when our reactiveness was so much and government and NGOs were coming at the plastic industry, then there was the rise. The rise was about the fact that the plastic industry realized that we need to form a synergy, a stronger collaboration with the public institutions and the private and the other private sectors and the NGOs to find solution to the problem. Now, one of it, I want to just enumerate them because of time, is the fact that we thought of why don't we come out with a tax system? We call it the Environmental Excise Tax, Act 836. And this tax was promulgated in 2013, April 2013, where every preform or semi raw material that is entering into Ghana is going to be taxed 10 additional % for the purposes of waste management, for the purposes of recycling. Now, you can ask me this question. From 2013, okay, the tax was promulgated in 2013. Let's assume they started collecting from 2014. From 2014 up to 2021, you can ask me this question and I'll throw it back to you that your guess is as good as mine. The money has been collected into the consolidated fund, but nothing, not even a pen had been used the money to be created for. No recycling institution in Ghana, which our federation is spearheading, had ever received 1 Ghana cedi to support in respect of their infrastructure in order to widen up their recycling, production. No industry in Ghana had any support. The second action from government, and indeed with the collaboration with the private sector, was the PPP, the polluter pay principle. That was also promulgated in Ghana in 2012. Listen, to be very, very honest with all of you who are listening, the Act 512, that is the PPP, the polluter pay principle, was brought into the scene, not only for plastics, but was for general waste stream, for organic, for paper, and what have you. However, all these generations are done. The government is receiving all the monies, but it is not using these monies for its rightful intention. The intended purpose had not been done. And that has been the challenge between you and I. That caused for the rise of industry to be very proactive, start to speak, begin to speak, because your money is being collected, but it's not being used for its intended purpose. So from our slumber, where we were very reactive, now the industry is very proactive. We are speaking. We are doing everything that should be done. And because of all that we are doing, we created several initiatives. Now, an initiative I want to recall is the Cash for Trash, which I'm happy to inform listeners and everyone joining this stream that I was, in fact, an integral part in setting up this initiative, the Cash for Trash system, where we were encouraging communities, households to gather their plastics and bring them to our secretariat. We give them the way, we do the way in, and then we give them sometimes cash, others we give them tokens, some vouchers. They go to the shopping mall and then they retrieve it with some money. I also, from our small corner, we also initiated the mobile plastic collection system. we set up the, because this system was done because sometimes we realized that some communities or some individuals were becoming lethargic in respect of bringing their plastic waste into our secretariat. So we decided to go there and pick it from there. So we created a mobile plastic collection system. We go there, we do the weighing, and then of course we deduct something small for our fuel and the maintenance of our vehicles, whilst we give them some token, and then they were happy with it. But we continued. We did a free app system. And indeed, there was a time for I think 2017 thereabout, AGI, I have to give this credit to them. AGI, though we were, as of that time, were in loggerheads with respect to direction from the plastic manufacturer's point of view, and AGI. AGI was a constituency of a wider industries in Ghana, where you have Guinness Ghana Limited and the rest. These big multinational companies were part of them. So they realized that government was trying to come out with a banning structure, but these were the companies that accepted the product designing of most of the things that they do. So they were doing plastic bottles for, of course, Guinness. They were doing plastic bottles. They were Voltic was doing. They were in fact they were the leading agencies when it comes to plastic water bottles, water packaged in bottles in Ghana, and they were doing so well. So when government wanted to threatened to ban plastics, these companies who were, because this initiative brought together Guinness Ghana Limited, Coca-Cola, Farm Milk, Nestle Ghana Limited, KGM Industries, Farm Park, Accra Breweries, and the rest. These giants came together, and then they brought their mindset into the wheel and say, we need to set up every small, it doesn't matter if it's a smaller recycling system within our own internal production, we can do it. And then they started doing it, and then at least it started increasing our rates. In fact, from 2012, 2013, our recycling, our waste collection, plastic waste collection was less than 2%. When we brought in the cash for trash, the mobile system, and then in 2016, 2017, thereabout, Gripe also coming in with their system, their recycling system, we had increased from less than 2% to the current rate of about 16, 17, 18%. I stand to give I don't have an accurate figure because of our own challenges locally. But the reality was that this rise was very important and very commendable, especially from the AGI and the Gripe side of it, because they complemented what the plastic industry was also doing. And that was very, very commendable. I must also say that within the rise of the plastic industry in Ghana, government realized that they can also cash in there. So they set up the free zone system. Now, this free zone, the policy was that if you come and set up an industry, 20% of your product will be sold in Ghana, 80% should be exported. Now, plastic industry also were very clever. They went to set up many of their industries in there, and then they were doing high level of productivity, and they were the ones that were exporting it to Mali, Nigeria, and I used the northern part of Guinea. So I went to a town called Shigiri. Now, it was very, very intriguing, but I have to say this. It was very bad to see that the weather condition is very hot. So the consumption of water pouches very high, but no waste recycling, or better still, waste management effort to collect these water pouches. And I was telling my host that, listen, you're having millions in your gutters and nobody is attending to it. I can tell you for a fact, they have lost their transition and they have found themselves in the gutters, but it's a real cash. So I must say that these productions that we're doing in our free zone enclaves were exported, and other West African countries who are having the same climatic condition as Ghana were really enjoying, especially the water pouches system. They were selling in a higher rate, and that has caused some of this industry to return some of their funds to support the local industry in this recycling, local recycling system that we are doing. Today, we can talk of a higher increase in recycling because informal sectors have enjoyed the system by setting up their own smaller recycling everywhere in Accra, in Kumasi, in Takoradi, Tamale. When you go to Tamale, you'll be surprised the level of recycling system that is going up there. And this has replicated in most of parts of the country. And I know that with the little information we have had with our counterparts in Guinea, Douw said earlier that it's only South Africa and Ghana that have signed the Global Declaration on Marine Litter. I just want to put this as a point of information that I'm happy to announce that Guinea is also a signatory to this. Of course, with your support, Douw, I was able to go to Guinea, get the policymakers and the industry on one table, and we're able to sign the Global Declaration on Marine Litter. So whichever effort we are doing in Ghana is being replicated in Guinea, and I hope other countries in West Africa will also join the fray, and we'll be able to solve their plastic waste issues. Now, I will go to advocacy. Advocacy with that synergy that was developed from 2016 now to today, advocacy had really given us the opportunity to have a closer work with the public sector. In fact, I must be honest that from the beginning of all these conversations, through our own effort, through the effort from our office, hitherto I was with the Ghana Plastic Manufacturers, we started the conversation from the National Waste Conversation, which was organized way back in 2016, where we had all the players to come on one round table for us to discuss what can we do, because we asked the question, why are we where we are? That was a very, very intriguing question. We asked, why are we where we are? Because the problem was dumbfounded. We were not able to solve the problem. So we asked the question, why are we where we are? And I remember very well, our two main speakers were Professor Chris Gordon of the University of Ghana and the just outgone Executive Director of EPA Ghana, Mr. John Puaman. They were the main speakers, and they came in with everything we need to know in moving forward to address the plastic waste challenge in Ghana and West Africa for that matter. And indeed, with the support from BUSAC Fund, UNDP, GIZ, UNIDO, etc., the private sector had really enjoyed the civil society collaboration to advocate for good policies and the implementation of these policies. Ghana is a hub of good policies, but hitherto we were not implementing them. But today we can say that at least the implementation rate has increased in a way. At least, if for nothing at all, about 35% of our implementation rate is good. And indeed, what we are looking for is where what do you call a public institution will start biting. They will have the teeth, but they will not bite. We want them to bite. Go at those who are flouting the laws. Challenge them to do the right thing. Challenge them to do the right thing, and then we believe that the nation will enjoy in the wider manner. Indeed, for private sector initiative from the FEMROC, that is the Federation of Plastic Manufacturers, Recyclers and Users Ghana, we are even going beyond Ghana. That is why we are having that wider collaboration with other West African countries in joining to support this very important work. Globally, FEMROC is part of the Global Plastic Alliance, World Plastic Council, and then Global Declaration on Marine Litter. So all our effort is geared towards reducing the open environment waste that enters into the marine environment. We are doing our best with respect to our advocacy work through the Talk Plus events and other curricular activities we have set up. Indeed, as I speak to you, we have 72 schools that have signed to our Friends of Plastic initiative, where we give them education on plastics, management of plastic, and recycling. From the institutional point of view, we have introduced the circular economic principle onto them. So in Accra alone, we have 32 of these schools. In Cape Coast and Takoradi, we have other schools that have also joined the fray. Now, when it comes to the real work, I always say the real work because the work itself is not about the talking. The work is about the action, the action. So I say, from our federation point of view, we have membership all across Ghana, every region. We have 16 regions now. Here were 10. So we had 10 regional offices. but because we had an additional 6, some regional officers are doing their work beyond their own jurisdiction, and they are transcending to other jurisdictions, and they are giving us the real report on the ground that, one, government is trying to do its best, but the industry is also doing its best. In fact, when it comes to the informal sector, we are doing so much, and we believe that at least going forward, we give ourselves 15 years to see Ghana like some of the Western countries. I don't know whether that agenda is still on, because that agenda began in 2016. We are 5 years down the line. Maybe because the agenda was synchronized with government's agenda to make Ghana the beautiful city in West Africa and Africa in general in 2017. So we were not far-fetched when we set up that 15-year goal. But of course, what you see on the ground is what is the reality. But we believe that things will change for the better. I want to speak of government intervention. I want to speak of the Ghana National Action, Ghana Plastic Action Partnership. It was a collaboration between the government of Ghana and the World Economic Forum that was signed into being on the 1st of October 2019. We were privileged to be part of the event, and with the audacious and ambitious kind of a focus, 2 years down the line, we are not seeing what we are seeing. But of course, last year we were able to invite the coordinators of this project from the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation. And they appeared at Talk Plus 2020, and they told us that beautiful things are done. They are doing them within their secretariat, and very soon they will be implementing for all of us to see that indeed the National Partnership on Plastic Action with the World Economic Forum is really working. When it comes to the Plastic Federation point of view, we started initiating the Operation Clean Sweep principle, which is geared towards the industries, curbing the waste from entering into the marine environment, stopping it from there. We are doing that training with all the institutions in Ghana. So far, we've started with a very few. We have had some strong sponsorship collaboration with the Basel Convention local representatives, and we are on signing the MOU with them to support us to expand our training schedules that will see us entering into all the recycling and the converting companies to give them this training, and that will reduce the waste significantly. That must be said. And then the second one is our outreach, which I mentioned earlier, the junior secondary schools and the senior high schools as well. Our marine litter solution, which is seeing us implementing 123 constituencies. We are calling it constituencies. 123 groups have been formed in the entire 5,550 coastal stretch of Ghana. So far, 123 coastal communities have signed onto this our marine litter solution principle, where they gather the plastic alone, and then we have our motor tricycles that picks them onto our buyback center. We are trying the best that we can to get the crushers and the pelletizers to start. My phone is always inundated with calls that we have so much coming to pick them up. Our spaces are consuming up. Please come and pick them up, which means indeed the consumption is high, the collection rate over there is also very high. But we believe that sooner than later, our capacity financially will be strengthened, and they will be able to do this to support the waste management efforts of government and other private institutions. Now, we'll end by speaking on our SWOT analysis that is giving us the strength, giving us the opportunities to see the future, believing that this can be a reality. Because if government has come out with an agenda to see Accra, and for that matter, Ghana, a beautiful city in Africa, we must put our shoulders to the wheel to ensure that it is done. So our strength, we are looking at strengthening the capacity. So far, our strength is not too good, but we can say that that's our strength because we have a stronger collaboration. But we are believing that we want to strengthen the capacity of all our networks within the entire 16 regions of Ghana and the 3 West African countries, Guinea, Ivory Coast, and then Togo. So far, these are the collaborators we have. We want and then recycle these plastic waste. Now, we see our weaknesses to be funding. Dr. Rubin, you recall when we had a meeting with the World Bank Group some time ago, my point was very simple. We want to do a plastic inventory, the ones that enters into Ghana and then what we produce locally. But of course, our shortfall is funding. But we believe that with our capacity, in time when it comes to personnel, what we have.
Excuse me, Daniel, excuse me. Just, I believe, I'm sorry to interrupt your impassioned speech. I believe are having a problem with the translation. Is that still a problem? Translation into French? Do we need to pause for a moment?
Oh, okay. All right, then I have to slow down. I thought I was.
No, I think there's a problem with the system, Daniel. But also we're needing to begin to tie up because question time is just about on us. Is there still a problem with the translation?
Non, il y a un bruit de fond et on n'entend même pas 10% de ce que vous dites en fait. Vous voyez peut-être s'il y a une fiche qui n'a pas été bien appuyée ou quelque chose comme ça, ou si votre micro, je ne sais pas. En tout cas, on n'entend pas le bip, vraiment. Est-ce que vous pouvez parler? Non, on dirait qu'il y a quelque chose qui tape sur le micro ou on n'entend pas. Je ne sais pas ce qui se passe. Peut-être que vous avez changé de casque ou quelque chose comme ça, je ne sais pas, mais... Voilà, là, on a... Oh non, ouais, ça revient encore. Quand vous dites... Allô?
Hello?
Voilà, là, nous entendons. Là, c'est parfait. Comme ça, c'est parfait. C'est cela. Et on a malheureusement raté presque toute l'intervention. Bon, c'est bon. It's okay.
It's okay. Right. Thank you very much indeed. Daniel, you can continue, but we are going to have to draw to an end very soon for questions and answers. Okay, so thank you very much. And my apologies for interrupting you.
No problem. I'll just wrap up in the next 5 minutes so that we can take in the questions as well. So I was speaking of our weaknesses. Our weaknesses is to funding indeed, and then how we can rise up issues of behavioral change principle into the curriculum, because just as we have started educating the young ones, we believe that the older generation will also come to terms with what we are doing. Our opportunities, we see a wider opportunity. Indeed, we believe that littering Africa, or better still, Ghana and West Africa in general, do not have a plastic problem. This one I want to emphasize, and I want to state it without any equivocation, that we do not have a plastic problem. We have a littering problem. That is why I say behavioral change is one key principle that must be tackled head on in order to get this done, and done very well. And we see most of our initiatives as ways to curb in this behavioral change principle through our own constituency, and making sure that they adhere to the principle of, not littering anyhow. There were times in Ghana when they used these waste bins. Some people will go and pick them up and then send it to the recycling site to recycle. I don't know. It's really very unfortunate, but that's what was happening in our own country, Ghana. But we believe that as the system goes, people will come to terms with stopping or ending littering, and then we will see the brighter side of plastics. Our threat is really pointed towards the huge importation of finished plastic goods that enters into the ports of Ghana, most especially from China and our neighboring country, Nigeria. Nigeria is using Ghana as a haven of their imports of plastics. And these are some of the reasons why we want to come out with some kind of a inventory system that is going to track every import that enters into our country. in order to help us to see the magnitude of it and how we can rise up our waste management effort in order to get it done and done properly. So I don't know, maybe I believe that I'm done with it, and I believe that a good collaboration with government using all the funds that have been collected, plus some level of support to widen up our recycling, we will be able to win the waste war that we find ourselves. So without much ado, I want to thank you so much for listening to my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. As usual, really enthusiastic and knowledgeable, much appreciated. For both you and Douw Steyn, not only a big thanks, but also a question. What we're focusing on is actually developing action plans. And you touched on many things, both of you, that need to be done. And in particular, we're keen today to address the issues that the producers need to face. What is it that producers need to do? And what is it that consumers need to do? And given that the countries in West Africa, and in fact all of Africa, have different circumstances, some of them in fact don't have producers, they rely entirely on importers and things, but what is it that we should do in those fields that need to go into the action plans? So would you, Daniel, like to have a first go at that? What is it that the producers should be doing in terms, and how would you advise them in terms of action plans? And then what would should the converters do? And then also address the fact that the countries are not the same.
All right, thank you so much, Tony, Dr. Rubink. I am very grateful for the question. Indeed, producers in West Africa and Ghana at large have had their windfall. When I have this opportunity in this forum, I see it's an opportunity for us to be realistic and truthful. Producers of plastics have had a huge windfall, and I believe that what they are doing so far is really limited. And I think they can increase what they are doing. What are some of the things I'm talking about? If government is taking 10% ad valorem tax on every raw material that is imported into the country, and you say, because I paid that amount of money and government is not utilizing it well, so I'm not going to do anything, it's going to be a problem. That is why I support the Extended Producer Responsibility Scheme, which have been initiated by the Ministry of Environment Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation, that the producers must be very responsible with whatever they do. But this one comes with a very wider structural principle. Now, within the confines of this discussion in developing an action plan, I believe that producers must put their shoulder to the wheel. They must put their monies where their mouth is. They must, as a matter of fact, come out with a stronger producer responsibility scheme within their own setup, localizing the extended producer responsibility system, where they are able to come out with some kind of a good initiative that reduces plastics that goes out. Now, first and foremost, if you increase your recycling system, now a company like Farm Milk Ghana Limited, there were times we were making arguments that, do you see their product in the waste stream? The answer is no. But people are consuming their product each and every day. How did they do this? They have contracted some people who goes into the waste streams and retrieve every bit of their product. Now, it's a very good call. But there are some other producers, they are the by-producers of even the plastic products. For example, Coca-Cola and the rest, who are not really, they are doing some. I have to commend Coca-Cola for joining the UNDP waste challenge by donating some huge amount of money to support the waste system. But I think they can do more. Indeed, with a UNDP waste recovery platform, for example, most of these countries have joined and they are supporting. Coca-Cola must be commended, but there are other institutions that are yet to do that. I want to speak on two fronts. One, the plastic producers themselves, and two, the plastic users as well. The producers must see to it that they are producing onto a market. They are producing onto a wider jurisdiction. How would we see that our production will not end up in the ocean environment? Come out with good initiatives, which some of us have already put some in the fray. For example, the Operation Clean Sweep principle, where it's about pellet loss, but we have widened from pellets to general waste stream loss. You do not lose them. When you have your waste, your internal industry waste, recycle them into the system. Make sure that you follow your product to whichever jurisdiction that they go, and then retrieving them. Don't let it be an affront onto the society. Now, with respect to the consumers, now the general population, we have a responsibility to make sure that we do not see littering in our open environment. No, it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be something we should countenance of. No.
Pour pouvoir prévenir la pollution. Alors, les institutions et
sure that the laws are being implemented to the letter. They must do that. For example, there was a time when they wanted to reintroduce, or better still, introduce a biodegradable system into our play, even though we spoke, sometimes we were speaking for and against, or all in all, we wanted to see the best of our country. There were some institutions in Ghana who were responsible to make sure that these plastic manufacturing companies adhere to the law, but they were not. They were not going to see to it that their role are being adhered to. They were not doing it. This is why I'm saying that when it comes to the entire consuming population, we have the government institution doing their bit to make sure that the general populace are doing what is required of us. We don't just pick the product and consume and throw it away. We have a new scheme that we call the circular economy system. Circular economy is all about not having the linear system: produce, consume, throw away. We have a good way of production line, a good redesign. It goes back into the system as a raw material. Then we go round and round and round, where we will not see some of these things happening onto us. This could be the best way possible to solve this problem. I believe I've been able to articulate the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Douw, would you like to respond to that?
Well, actually, Daniel said it so well, but in my opinion, from Plastic SA point of view, is we need to identify who is the producer when we talk about the producer, because a lot of your plastic converters will make the product as is required by the brand owner or the retailer. So I think we need to decide when we talk about the converter, or the producer, who is responsible. I believe the full value chain is responsible. That is, from the raw material to the converter, to the brand owner, to the retailer, to the consumer. Any funding scheme that is put in place, that will be passed on to the consumer. And that exactly happens in our country with the plastic bag tax. It goes into the fiscus. The converter is paying a certain amount per plastic bag to the fiscus, to the part of revenue services. But all of that is passed on to the consumer at the end of the day. So I think we need to really, when we think about this, is who is the responsible person? And when we talk about the producer.
There's a question that says, how can we bring the issue of behavioral change into this discussion of plastic disposal and their impact on the environment? Douw, do you want to comment first?
Well, I think, can you hear me? Sorry, I wasn't sure if I'm now muted or not.
Yes, we can hear you.
I was looking at that question, I think in the question thing as well, is I think behavior change is one of our biggest challenges in this world, in this country, and especially in SA. People litter very easily. You know, you drink your cold drink while you're driving. You don't want to dirty your car, but you throw it out of the window, so you dirty the environment. So I think behavior change for me is quite important. And I think through education and consumer education programs, one could maybe make an impact. And that is why the SA Initiative and the Plastic Pact and various other organizations like SST, like the Global Plastic Alliance say, education is really crucial. We need to change people's behavior because plastics don't litter, people do. A plastic product lying in the river didn't get there by itself. So I think it should start really from school level already, and we should really look at various organizations, who's doing what. And that's something we discussed this morning in the Plastic Pact as well. We need to really understand who's doing what type of education, and is it working, and how can we really level it up so that we really get people's mind that a product does not have to end up in the environment, should not end up in the environment. So education, and beverage as me, I think, is really crucial at this stage of life.
Thanks, Douw. Tony, I see your hands up. Do you have a question?
It's a comment really based on what the two speakers have said, and that is that unless plastic has a value, and they mentioned cash for trash, and Douw pointed out that it has a value, but only if it is marketable and somebody's going to buy it. It doesn't matter how valuable that plastic is, if you can't sell it to somebody, it doesn't have a value. So I think that we need, one of the things to possibly look at is increasing the value of plastic, because that will change behavior. That is, of course, quite a long way off, but it becomes contentious. Would Douw and Daniel like to comment on that?
Well, Tony, from my point of view, I think in South Africa, plastic has got quite a good value if you compare it to the virgin price. And we've identified various products already that could be made from recycled material. And I think there's space to better it. In various, if you look at your European countries, you don't really pay, people don't get paid for waste really. It gets collected by municipalities, it goes to a sorting facility, there's a Gunepung that's paying for the sorting, etc. They don't have 60,000 people going through your bins or your landfills trying to make a living. Unfortunately, in your developing countries, that is one of the big problems. South America, Africa, India, is that waste has become a resource and people are collecting it. Also, a fact is, our recycling companies don't do recycling for the sake of the environment. Well, they might differ with me, but they're doing it because it's economically viable. But there's a value chain that, like the collector on the landfill will sell it to a middleman. The middleman will make sure that it's properly sorted. Then he makes sure that it's properly sorted, baled, put on a truck, and then sent to a recycling processing plant. So it's a whole value chain of exchange of money. And that is maybe one of the challenges we have, is that if we give it too much value, then is it worth that amount? Like, for instance, a chips packet. Who's going to pick up a chips packet? If it's worth 20 cents, he's not going to bend 500 times to pick it up. So I think one has to be really realistic when we look at the value of materials. And that's something that I think the SA initiative also will look at with our recycling fraternity and the pact, etc. I believe it has value, but to give it too big value, I don't know if that's going to work, Tony. That's something we need to discuss. Daniel, what's his experience in Ghana around it?
Yeah, thank you so much. Though it's a powerful point you just made. I want to answer that question on a two thematic area. That waste, plastic waste, is not a waste. And indeed, no waste, as we speak today, can be classified as waste. Every waste is a material in transition. Now, we, on our part, we explained to people, we explained to communities that when it comes to plastics, there's nothing like plastic waste. The plastic you see is lying there. When you take it off and it goes through the system, over here, our value chain is a little wider, unlike South Africa is more advanced indeed. When I had the opportunity to be trained by Douw and his team, I realized that our value chain is longer because ours is a collector, there's a transporter, there's a crusher, and there's a recycler. Before, if he doesn't have the capacity to turn it into a new product, it sends into the converter. Now, we developed the cash for trash principle just to reorient people to understand that what you see as a waste, it is not a waste. It is a real resource an economic viability that is lying there. If you pick it up, you put some together and you have a lump. If it is weighed, it's helping you to reduce the waste around your environment. At the same time, increasing somebody's industrial material resource. So it's all about having a wider material resource capacity in order to collect more, so that we see less, we depopulate them in the open environment and we populate them in the industries, because when it comes to the industries, it is turned into something better. Now, number two, I see it as a more of a community work, because if everybody, like, I want to tie in this to the behavioral change question that was asked earlier by Tara. I want to say that if everybody within our population understands that I need not to throw the water I just drank from that pouch away, but I can keep it in my car. I can gather more and then send it to the buyback center. Why wouldn't I have some token to? Now, sometimes these are insignificant, but it works so hard. That is why we believe that when you catch them young and you input some of these principles into them, like those in the junior high schools and the secondary schools, you input into them that plastic waste are not waste. They are materials. They are very good, viable resources. And when you put them together, we even reduce the ones that goes into the landfills, and those who are doing the collection over there reduces. They can pick it up from our various communities. It will help, and it will reduce the extent of waste we see in our open environment. Thank you. That's my answer.
Tony, if I could also mention, one of our PROs, or product responsible organizations, is subsidizing the recycling processes to be able to pay more to the person collecting it. But one have to make sure that it must be sustainable and economically viable as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to Tara.
Thanks, Douw. Thanks, Daniel. There is I think we have time for one last question here from Barbara that says, I hear the speakers refer to education as a way to change behavior, and the reference was made to including schools, formal institutions, etc. How can we change behavior in the larger informal population, and which actors are responsible for changing this behavior? Producers, government, civil society, etc. This will help streamline funding for education. Douw, do you want to comment on that first?
Yeah, I'm trying to think whose responsibility is it. You know, I'm in the plastic industry. I'm not an educator, but I believe society, we all have a role to play. It could be the church, it could be the school system. It's government's role to worry about waste management as well, and the municipalities. I think we as parents have a role to play. So I think education is not just on a school level. I think it's really about us as humans, and how do we perceive the environment, and how do we treat the environment. It must be something that comes from your heart, and not always by force. So I believe everybody have a role to play, and some people just have a bigger role to play. For instance, the education department could bring it into the education system, etc. My opinion.
Okay, so yeah, this is what I would like to say. And when it comes to it, it's a very powerful question, but I just have to attest to that. But you see, when it comes to government, I see that government must, as a matter of fact, in collaboration with the educational institutions, create a curriculum as part of the normal educational curriculum that we have. It can even start from preschool. It can even start, because children of today, their brain developed from 2 years. So you can imagine you are inputting these things from as young as 2 years. So from preschool, they grow with it into the higher level of education. That is number one. Now, when it comes to the informal sector, where her question was based, waste as we see today, or every waste that we see, belongs to the municipalities here in Ghana. That is at least according to the Environmental Act. Every waste you see, there is a custodian to the waste, and that is the municipality. So I believe that most of the municipalities are dealing with the wider population who are informal, and they can use whichever channel, whichever communication, whichever outreach system that they have in their possession to reach out to the wider municipal population, making sure that they understand the principle of, if you throw it away, we will summon you, we will arrest you, we will penalize you according to law. And this thing becomes more of a legal and an institution that has been framed up. Now here in Ghana, there are laws that bans people littering, but these laws are in our status book. They are not working. Sometimes when it starts raining, this conversation, if we were doing it during the rainy season around our area, this would have been a wide issue. But because it's not raining now, everybody is quiet. Let it start raining and let some choke gutters get some flooding and what have you. You see people lambasting plastics. But we have forgotten that in our status books within every municipality, the waste that is there belongs to them, and therefore they must start doing a wider outreach that will have to go in tandem with everybody within the jurisdiction. And that will be the solution to the problem. At least this is from my side of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. I think that's the last of the questions for today. I'm going to hand over for the closing, but I just want to bring up the next two speakers who will be presenting next week. We have one on Tuesday and one on Thursday next week, so we're very excited to bring you their presentations, and we hope you're able to join us next week. Tony, do you want to close things off for us?
Thank you. I'd like to do that with Abdullah. Firstly, may I thank the speakers and those who attended. Really, really great. And the passion and the knowledge from both of you was remarkable and much, much appreciated. Please do attend these next two meetings that Tara has brought your attention to. Both exceedingly good speakers and very informative. If anybody can confirm the knowledge within these speakers, Douw Steyn can, and we can certainly concur with it. We've got very, very knowledgeable speakers here and very important parts of the action plans that they're going to be talking about. May I just ask Abdullah, Tara and Leslie to stay on afterwards, but Abdullah, please, would you like to thank everybody and over to you.
Thank you, Tony. Merci, Tony, pour avoir fait la modération et d'avoir introduit les participants. Merci, Daniel, pour cette présentation passionnante et qui nous a appris énormément de choses sur ce qui se fait au Ghana et sur les liens qui sont faits aussi avec certains pays comme la Guinée, vous l'avez mentionné dans votre intervention. Merci aussi Douw Steyn pour la contribution. Ce que je retiens de ce qui a été dit aujourd'hui, c'est surtout la nécessité d'avoir un autre regard sur le plastique et sur la pollution. Donc, de déconnecter les deux et de considérer qu'effectivement, il y a une évidence à laquelle on ne pense pas tout de suite quand il est question de la pollution plastique. C'est que ce n'est pas plus dans nos comportements, nos attitudes de tous les jours qui polluent. D'où l'importance, comme il est apparu dans les deux interventions, de tenir ou de faire un travail important en matière de sensibilisation, de conscientisation et de changements comportementaux. Et c'est quelque chose, à notre avis, qui doit partir depuis le plus jeune âge et même intégrer ça dans les curricula, dans les écoles, pour l'éducation relative à l'environnement, et voir aussi comment faire en sorte que les jeunes, de plus en plus aujourd'hui, se comportent comme des ambassadeurs. C'est d'ailleurs un des points que nous envisageons de conduire avec nos partenaires de SST et de African Marine Waste Network. Donc, merci beaucoup et préparez-vous pour les deux prochaines sessions qui vont arriver la semaine prochaine, le 16 et le 18. Voilà, et puis pour ceux qui le peuvent, partagez ça au sein de vos réseaux respectifs. Merci beaucoup. Au revoir, la Convention d'Abidjan, au nom de la Convention d'Abidjan. Merci Daniel, merci Douw.